All right, let's get into it. I am getting ready for the day. I'm just gonna do my usual routine. 4 days when I actually put on makeup, which is really a mixed bag these days because I mostly stay home. So what's the point? The point is that sometimes you just need to put on some makeup to feel, I don't know, slightly together, like the world. I don't know. I don't. Sometimes you need to put on makeup because it is soothing and relaxes you and makes you feel normal, or at least some semblance of normalcy. So let's do it. These are the things that I have been currently using. Heavy rotation. We're gonna start with Charlotte Tilbury's Magic Cream. Getting low here, but it's because I use it a ton. This has been an extra. I feel like every time I come on here, I'm like, this has been a really difficult week for me. But I did have therapy this week, so those tend to be weeks that I don't feel so great. It's like I feel great in one sense because I'm like, yeah, I'm tackling things, I'm getting through it. But and then on the other hand, it's just going through a bunch of old trauma. So that's difficult. I didn't realize therapy was so great, and I think it's a real tragedy that it's not easily accessible to the masses because it is so expensive and mostly not covered. Like, I have Blue Cross, so it covers a bit of it, but then only up to like a certain amount, so then I'm just gonna be paying for it completely out of pocket. And I'm grateful that I can afford to do that. It's just something that everyone should have access to. I firmly believe that. Okay, we've magic creamed. What should I do next? I'm gonna do my eyebrows because that's just what I like to do. I've been using, I've used this for years and yet I still have to look at the name of it. The Benefit Goof Proof brow pencil, and also the Precisely My Brow pencil. And I think they're both in 2.5. Yeah, which is, I don't know, blonde something. It's been a real blast going through old romantic relationships that really messed me up. And I didn't realize how damaging they were until I became more of an adult and had to question why I did the things I did, or overreacted to things. And it's because I was being triggered by past experiences that went really horribly wrong. That's pretty vague, but kind of the quick synopsis of what's been going on. Speaking of horrendous relationships and grooming, has anyone else watched The Vow, which is a documentary series about the NXIVM cult? Oh boy. I listened to the CBC podcast a couple of years ago. I think it was a couple of years ago, and I think it was called like Enter NXIVM or NXIVM something. It was by the CBC. Anyway, it was a very good podcast, but I think the Vow is on HBO, but it shows a couple of the people who got out and then were trying to warn the government about NXIVM being a sex cult, because a bunch of the female members were getting branded with the leader, Keith Raniere's initials. Oh boy. It's very dark and just so good at breaking down how calculated this cult was, and yeah, just like the sneaky way that it bit by bit, they get you to normalize things that like an average person wouldn't. I think at one point in the documentary, someone says, you don't just join a cult. It's not how it works. It's the slow grooming process. And then by the time you're like so deep into it, you don't even realize it. My only critique of the whole thing was that the documentary series was quite a slow burn. It really took a while to pick up steam, and maybe it's because I had already listened to the podcast, so I kind of knew a bunch of the stuff, but by the end of it I realized why they had framed a lot of it the way that it was, because they are slowly building the story with you too. Anyway, if cults and true crime or anything like that interests you, The Vow, bizarro, highly recommend. I would say the last 2 episodes are the best, in my personal opinion. Got the brows on thanks to Benefit, but I also want to put a little bit of gel through it, so I'm going to use the Rimmel Wonderful Brow in 001 Light. I've talked about this, I don't know, a couple of times already, but I think it's a fairly good dupe for Glossier's Boy Brow. But I also mentioned that I don't have a lot of brow hair, so I like to scrape off a bunch of the product back into it. Otherwise it just chunks on, like I just don't have enough hair to necessitate that much product on the end of the brush. I just like to comb out my brow hairs just a bit. They aren't just completely drawn on. Give it some texture. Another thing that I've really been enjoying as of late, that I tried out in my luxury makeup, full face of luxury makeup, is this brown liner here in the Dior palette that doesn't exist anymore, so oh, whatever. This brown, it's like a deep brown liner. I've really been liking it just to do a slight cat eye. I used to love black liner and doing like all kinds of wild punk makeup, which is funny because I say punk makeup because at the time it was like strange to wear lots of colorful eyeshadow back in like 2005. It wasn't mainstream as it was, or as it is now. So I would be doing like a blend of yellow with like bright blue, and then like in the middle it would be like a little bit greeny, and I would love to do cat eyes with that too, with black liner. Anyway, it's interesting to see how far makeup has come and what has become more mainstream. Oh, Jesus. Mainstream and commonplace, acceptable. What do I do with this? How do I get this off? I used to use a lot of black liner back then. I think though, as I've gotten older, that brown is more my jam. It's not as harsh on my aging eyes. I'm not even that old. Is being 30 that old anymore? There's something about gel liners that I'm just really leaning towards these days. I have such hooded eyes. And like this one more so than this one. But yet lots of space up here. It's been a real challenge, and especially as I continue to get older, these continue to droop more too. So it's definitely interesting finding what works with my eye shape. Moving right along. Another thing that I have been into lately is the Afterglow eyeshadow palette from Nars. More specifically, this color right here, as well as like these two here. So I'm gonna do a little bit of that on my eye. Sometimes I just skip this step completely, and sometimes I do it. Just really depends. Since I have some time today, I will put in the extra effort. And just a little bit of the pink for funsies. This little color right here. I just dip my finger into this one and plop it on. Nothing revolutionary. Very easy. Typically I won't put the upper colors on, but I was just feeling it today. Sometimes you just go with the flow and let yourself try new things. Oh, at the end of the day, it all just washes off anyway. One of these days I really have to do something with this color because it really speaks to me. I haven't given myself time to just explore, you know? And yet I have lots of time at home to do whatever I want. But typically I fill it with making food and editing shit. Or watching Real Housewives. Which, by the way, anyone else tuning into the OC? When I do actually put anything on my face, it has been the Laura Mercier Tinted Moisturizer. And typically I'll just put it on the bottom half of my face, not up here. So this is the Bobbi Brown Creamy Concealer. It comes with a little powder. And at first I was like, whatever, this powder, I don't need it, I don't care. And now I'm like, oh, I do need that powder because it helps set under my eyeballs. I sometimes find my mascara transfers, so shit, I'm so dehydrated. Like everything is going on not as great as it could be. Okay, I'm using a pump of the Fenty Beauty primer. I don't know, probably has like some cool name that I'm just unaware of. As I was saying, oh, there we go, that's much better. Sometimes when I put on like the Charlotte Tilbury Magic Cream, if I don't work fast enough, it just sinks right into my skin. I have a hunch that it's probably just because the seasons are changing and my skin is incredibly thirsty right now because I live in the northernmost populated city in Canada and it's very dry here. In fact, now that I'm saying this, I'm thinking I need to bust out my humidifier pretty soon here. Okay, we'll leave it at that. So I'm still in my pajamas, which is a American Apparel hoodie from, I don't know, 2006, and a Motorhead t-shirt from 2003, and sweatpants that I got as PR from a company that I would never advertise for again. But they're damn comfy, so I keep wearing them. So that is the under eye with the Bobbi Brown. And now we are going to go in with the Laura Mercier Tinted Moisturizer. I'll just bloop, bloop, and a bloop, and there a bloop, and just mix it all in. I'm using an Eco Tools brush, because I haven't really been telling you what brushes I've been using. Ugh. A lot of the brushes I have don't exist anymore. Because I started playing around with makeup in the late 90s when I was in grade 6 and 7, which some of that stuff I wish I would have kept. Like when Hard Candy was actually an expensive prestige brand. Oh, those are the days. And the advertisements too. I just love looking at them. And not that I would still use that makeup, but I just want to hold that compact again and like look at it. This is my hoarder tendencies talking, because I love collecting things. It is one of my favorite things to do. I have too much stuff for one person and I realize that, but I don't feel like doing like a ton about it. I just love the way that this makes my skin look. I've been really loving the Fenty, Jesus Christ. The Fenty Cream Blondes. How am I a person who can't speak? The Fenty Cream Bronzer, not Blonzer. This is it, in 03 Macchiato. I like to use the Fenty bronzer as well as this poor soul that I poked a hole through. R.I.P. Marc Jacobs. So let's start with Macchiato. And this is a flawless foundation brush from Image, which I think they mostly do skincare. I didn't realize they were branching out into makeup. At least I haven't tried their makeup. I'm not sure how I ended up with this brush. I know they gave it to me, but I don't remember. Ooh, that was way too low. When things go wrong, you just blend as much as possible. I guess it'll do. Oh, leave it at that. Now for bronzing, going with this more pointed brush as we get specific about where we're putting it. I swirl around the hole now. Oh, it makes me so sad. All that good. There's a couple of things I've been using for my cheeks. Oh, I forgot to say too, the other tinted moisturizer that I have been playing around with more is the Burt's Bees one that I talked about recently as well. I really like it. The only thing that holds me back from using it more often is that it is scented, whereas this doesn't really have a scent to it. So, though I really like this product. I've been having really bad headaches the last couple of days, so trying to steer clear of super scented things, hopefully to not trigger it. Oh shit! So I've been using this a lot as well too. We'll just put it on just for fun. I love that glow from within that the Hollywood Flawless filter for a youth star. Youth star. Hollywood Flawless filter for a superstar youth glow. What a name. What a name. But I like to get a little glowy. When I first tried this, I put it all over my face. And I would have to say that that's a mistake because I ended up looking very dewy, granted, but it's almost Tin Man-like. It was just a little bit too much. And that's coming from me, where as a person, I think my life motto is more is more in most cases. This is where we revisit me talking about how I have hoarder tendencies and love collecting things because more is more. We're coming full circle here. Oh yeah. I just love that stuff. It is exceptional. This is a product that is no longer available, I believe, but it is the Nars Endless Orgasm palette. Just because you can't get it doesn't mean I'm gonna stop using it, because it's beautiful. Like, clearly it's beautiful. That would be a waste. So I'm gonna use it. That's the one thing that really bothers me about beauty YouTube, I think, is that when people do declutters, they're like, well, I'm gonna get rid of this because it was limited edition, so you guys can't buy it. And it's like, okay, but like, do you not like it? So wouldn't you just keep it to use it? Or do you only want to show things that you can make a commission off of? I'm just saying, is that what that is? Because I don't know. So I like to use this on my eyes a bit too. I will go in with the lightest color up here, Orgasm Ecstasy maybe, and then just put it in the inner corners. So I have been using this as a highlighter, but I've also been using this a lot too. Yeah, there's just something about these cream highlighters from this palette that's amazing. But the one from Burt's Bees is spectacular too. But I just used it in the last video. I'm gonna use this same top one right here. It's probably my most used one, to be honest. And just do a little more highlight over that youth star. Oh my god, youth star. Hollywood Superstar Youth Glow. And we'll just put a little bit on my brow bone too. We need to do blush. I've been using the Bobbi Brown Fresh Melon Pot Rouge for lips and cheeks quite a bit. It's just a nice peachy color. I usually gravitate towards peachy blushes. And another Eco Tools brush and just swirl it in. I've had this blush almost a year and have been using it, I would say, consistently. And it looks like I haven't even made a dent in it. It's like, it just never ends. Not that I'm complaining, because I do like it a lot. I've also used beauty blenders to dip into it as well. I think it's such a pretty blush. Like, I'm like, this is my everyday look. This is more eyeshadow than I would wear every day. I would usually just dip into this thing and smear it all over my eyes and then leave it at that. But sometimes you get carried away and inspired by a palette. I feel like most of my conversations these days revolve around what I'm gonna do once the pandemic is over, which I don't know. Will it ever be over? I'm starting to get somewhat pessimistic about everything. You know, you ebb and flow with your feelings. Curling my eyelashes. This is nothing new here. I have been using this. I mean, I do really like this as a mascara, which is why this is not the first time I've used it. But I also like to try and use up mascaras rather than continuously open them. I try to not be wasteful where I can. But I love the brush on this one. They also came out with another Climax mascara, which they sent me. I will be trying it out soon because I think this one has almost run its course. Now the final step, lips. Like I said before, this smells like it's expired, but I love the color, so I'm gonna keep using it. It is the Burt's Bees Matte Stick in Buttery Blush. And I think it's just the most beautiful color, but it doesn't, the flavor isn't good. So I like to use that, but then sometimes I'll be like, oh, you know, maybe just a little gloss, just a little something. So I use the Fenty Gloss and Fenty Glow. And to me, that's just perfection there. So there you have it. There's my mostly everyday look, aside from maybe a little bit more eyeshadow than usual. Anyways, I'm gonna get on with my day, but thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you soon. Doodles!